Hi, this is Laura. I wanted to share with you our weekly Zoom session content on performance management. So I will go through this quickly. You may want to make sure you look at the assignments that are related to the GROW model and Brightspace so you can correlate that with the information I'm sharing. All right, performance management encompasses activities such as joint goal setting, continuous progress review, and frequent communication, feedback, and coaching for improved performance, implementation of employee development programs, and rewarding achievements. The main thing I think I'd like you to take away about performance management is that it's not once a year evaluation of a person. That is one component, but effective performance management is an ongoing process. And you may be doing this with your own supervisor. You may be a supervisor, but what you're going to hear from me is related to having an ongoing set of activities that you do. And effective performance is sets the foundation for rewarding excellence by aligning individual employee accomplishments with the organization's mission and objectives and making the employee and the organization understand the importance of a specific job in realizing outcomes. And the main thing here that I want to emphasize again is performance management is proactive. It's not just this one time a year, or it's not just reactive when something doesn't go well. But it helps drive individuals and organizations towards performance and results. And it's a balance. So that's really important to have that balance between performance and expectation setting and achieving results. So here are the essential components. I don't want to read them all to you. I'm just going to pick out a few. The PowerPoint is part of the Brightspace, so you can take a look at it, but these are some important ones. Initially, when you're hiring, make sure you have the job description right. Make sure that you hire a good person. And then you want to make sure once they're hired and you're onboarding them that you set expectations that are related to their job and to the organization. And you want to do continuous coaching and feedback. So again, performance management is not once a year or once a quarter. It is ongoing, and it can be informal or formal, but we should be doing it on a regular basis. Part of those continuous discussions should center around training and development needs, talking about career development, just skill development, things that the employee is interested in. And then there's some tricks here. This is number 7 to effective compensation and reward systems. Some of us work in organizations where there's not merit-based pay or performance-based pay, and so you've got to help draw the picture for employees as to what the rewards and recognition systems are when it might not be compensation. But if you do have that in your organization, then try to make sure that your employees know very clearly the objective measures whereby they will be evaluated if they are going to get some form of merit pay. The other is providing career development and promotional support for employees. That is something that they want. Employees say they want recognition, not necessarily always kudos, but just recognition for good work and their value. And they want the opportunity to be told what they're good at and how they need to develop so they can grow their career. Another thing that's important, and we see all the time, is exit interviews. And often in exit interviews, one of the common things I get that people are dissatisfied about is the fact that they don't have regular meetings or check-ins with their supervisors, and that they just don't know where they sit in the organization in terms of performance. So let's make sure we're doing that. Now, this is the part that aligns with some of your assignments, and I wanted to share. This is the GROW coaching model. Stands for an acronym that stands for goal, reality, options, and will. And we'll walk through this with an example to give you how this might work. And your assignment is to think through a discussion you'd like to have with a supervisor, or it can be with somebody else. But the idea is, how would if you're a supervisor with an employee, or you can interview somebody else. But the idea is, if you're trying to have a performance-based discussion, this model works really well. And you can use it in family life too. It's a really good model, and if you do it well, often you can avoid any kind of contention or conflict. So let's use let's say a person that's they're required to be in at a certain time and they're tardy to their work. So, and if you're the supervisor and you are in fact talking to that employee, then your discussion would look something like this. You'd have the meeting, and again, this is a two-way conversation. It's not a lecture from the supervisor to the employee. But if you're saying, hey, we're here for the meeting because your job is one where you're on the front line and we have to serve our customers, and so The point of the meeting today is to make sure that we're clear on the expectations for your position in terms of being at your desk at 8 a.m. because we have customers that are waiting. And then the reality is you want to tell them what's the situation that you would like corrected. What do you see? And these are observable behaviors. So, for example, again, using tardiness, you are not at your desk by the start time of 8 a.m. You are late by 15 minutes or a half hour, and that causes other people to have to take your role, sit at your desk, make sure customers are served. So the reality, as we noted in the goal, is we're trying to understand what the situation is and address it. So the other part of the discussion with the employee would be something like, can you please help me understand your reality? What's going on for you? Why are you late? So again, you're talking with the employee. It's a two-way conversation. So if you're saying, okay, the goal of the meeting is to address tardiness. The reality is we need somebody at the desk by 8. Please help me understand why that is not occurring. Then you move into options and will. So options are, again, two-way conversation. The employee has told you up to this point whatever their reasons for being late. You hopefully have reiterated back, you've heard that, and say, okay, so I hear you saying you have childcare challenges. And so here are the options that I see. We can have somebody else cover for you. We can push back your start time by 15 minutes, and we will be willing to try that for 2 weeks so that we can see if that works any better. And then we'll meet again and decide if that's permanent. And so that's one option. The other option is we absolutely need you, excuse me, we absolutely need you to be here by 8. And so, we're going to have to think of if we have somebody else to cover, if we need to shift you to a new position. So here again, you might say, what do you think would work best? Engage them in the solution. The last is the will. Sometimes will is called the way forward for the W, but this is where you pull everything together and you're like, here's what we decided. Here are the next steps. And here's what we'll do as far as next check-in. So again, time being tardy to work. So we talked about two options. One is we have somebody cover for you. We also give you 15 minutes extra to be, to come in the morning. We're going to do that for 2 weeks. And you've agreed, please, I'd like to see your commitment to this. You've agreed you're going to do this. You've agreed you're going to communicate with us if things change or you need something else. But that we'll check back in 2 weeks and make sure that this is working, and then we'll plan our next steps. So this is where you just kind of tie the bow on it. So again, other things, you can reverse this and do it in a different way where you're like, let's say I had one example from another student today where they're like, I want to talk to my supervisor about ways that I can have opportunities to promote. So if you use this same model, then you'd say, if I'm, I'm the employee talking to my supervisor, you might say, hello, supervisor, I'd like to talk to you about, my desire to grow my career. I'm looking to get your feedback and your support. That's the goal. The reality part would be, I am in this position right now. I'm working really hard. I see opportunities in the organization. I'd like to be prepared for them. Can you please tell me how you see my work and what I might need to do to be prepared? And then the option part of it would be, I see options for myself as, seeking training and development in these areas. Can you tell me what areas you might be willing to support me? And then you agree on some options, whatever those are. Ask for candid feedback. Can you tell me any areas that I need to improve? So those are some options. And then the will part or the way forward part would be, what did we agree to? Thank you, supervisor, for giving me that feedback. Thank you for committing to help me grow. Thank you for allowing me to go to training. I hear you saying that we can meet every quarter to check in on my development. So that is another quick example. And if you have other questions, you're welcome to reach out to me, but hopefully that helps. And then this is just a summary of some of the thoughts. So in terms of performance management, there should be alignment between the employee and the organization. Effective performance management is always about articulating expectations. What are the expectations for a job? What are the expectations to meet a project? What are the timelines? So that's really important. And paired with that are goal setting. So make sure that whatever the expectations are, they're tied to a particular goal. and what that goal means in terms of performance for both the employee and the organization. And then there's ongoing checking in and monitoring. So another way you can use the GROW model is, let's say you have the initial discussion about what we talked about, tardiness, and you're like, we're going to check in 2 weeks. When you check in, you use the same model. You're like, here's today's reason for me. We're doing a check-in. Here's where we are right now. You've been able to effectively stick to the schedule we agreed to for 2 weeks. We think we can make it permanent. I think the option is that we can continue to work on this. We'll give it another 2 weeks. Are you in agreement? And then whatever you agree to is the will or the way forward. And if you have to adjust, you make those adjustments and then you agree. So you can use it. And then that goes into this last one, which is you can use the coaching model really for almost any discussion where you're seeking to establish why are we here and what are we trying to achieve, and then working through it all the way to the end where you're like, here's the way forward. Here are the steps we're trying to do. And oftentimes if you use it, it can be very intuitive. You can just start doing it on your own. You might even find you're doing it in your own conversations already. That's one of the reasons I really like it, is it's not complicated. You don't even have to go linear. You can start anywhere in the model depending on what the conversation is. But it's one that if you're like, I'm struggling to have this conversation, or I'm struggling to establish an expectation, then try to use it. And that's what the point of the assignment that you have is to help you do. And lastly, just some resources, and hope you are well. And if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. Thanks. Bye-bye.